When you hear the sound of the bell, you know you are in the championship rounds with the one and only King Amin of Essex One. And I'm here with a very special guest today. As I keep building, I understand what it's like when you trying to be a prospect. You want to be a contender. I'm doing my thing with this boxing podcast, and this gentleman is doing his thing in the light heavyweight division, a sneaky deep division. I want to introduce him and allow him to speak more on himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I got light heavyweight professional fighter Atif Oberlton.
What's going on, Oberlton? Hey, man.
Oberlton.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, nah, thanks for joining me, man. And so just a little bit. It's two things about you I like to highlight first. Anybody of Jamaican heritage and lineage, I like to always put that in the forefront because we always kind of, people like my man George, shout out to the Pope of Pugilism, George Hansen, he always pointing us in the right direction. So, and Philadelphia is a fighting city,
Right.
not like many in the United States anymore. So just tell us a little bit about your background. How'd you fall in love? What made you go to boxing? And a little breakdown of yourself.
Um, I fell in love with boxing at like the age of like 8 or 9. That's when I first started boxing. I was trying other sports, and my uncle had a pair of boxing gloves in a room when I was younger. And I asked my mom, like, can I go boxing? She said, nah. And then I went and tried football, but on the football team, I was a bit heavier. So they'll put me on the defensive line. And on the defensive line, I kept, every time somebody pushed me, I just started fighting them. And they took me to the basement at the recreation center. And I was in and out the gym at that time. And then I came back around 14 and I never left the gym ever since. And my background is, inner city kid, Philadelphia, but I pretty much I already knew what I wanted to do at a young age. When I was like 9, 10 years old for my birthday, I was saying I wanted to be the world heavyweight champion in the world. So I always had a focus and an idea on exactly who I wanted to be. So I just, I stayed in the gym, a lot of things will call you, being in the inner city, a lot of trouble will call you and all that. But I just really stayed focused and stayed true to me and just was being myself and just put my all into this.
And that's one thing I want to point out too, because I mentioned about Philadelphia being a boxing city, a city of fighters. It's a city of rappers too. It's a city of artists and entertainers, right? Um, do you think of all the cities, and I know you've been done some traveling, do you think it's easier to stick with boxing in Philly as opposed to other sports because of the way the neighborhoods and the gyms, or do you think that you just have to be determined within yourself?
Feel like you have to be determined within yourself because it's not boxing is not a thing like everybody is trying to do it in Philadelphia, believe it or not. You got a lot of people that want to be ball players, football players, and all that. But it's like the very select few that do decide to box, they get the respect from everybody. So it's not something that everybody's doing in the city.
Yeah, no, definitely. And from the outside looking in, it might seem like it, but it does take a special talent and a special determination. And that's exactly why here you are at this particular point. And I just want to get into some of the topics and get your opinion because um sometimes fighters they just treat it like a business, or sometimes they're passionate about it and they have a different degrees of and interest. So I want to get your opinion on a few topics. The first one I want to start with is Anthony Joshua. This is the heavyweight division. Only two up from you, maybe three if you count Bridger weight. But he's talking about him and Wilder being of the same era and about that fight needs to happen. There's also some things with AJ. We know you're looking for a trainer. I would prefer him to get out there with Ronnie Shields. We've seen him with Derek James. What do you think about what AJ's doing as far as coming off a loss and what he needs to do next?
I feel like AJ is trying to do the right things to correct, where he feel like he was lacking at. I can't blame the man at all. At one point in time, he was holding a lot of belts and he was doing his thing. So he's just trying to get things back right. I respect him for keep wanting to push and keep saying that he want the Deontay Wilder fight instead of just rolling over because he dealt with some adversity and just want to quit. So I respect him for having adversity and going through it and still trying to make all the moves to get back to the top of the game. And I like Anthony Joshua as a individual as well. when I hear him speak a lot, you know, it could be like his little training camp videos and stuff. It seems like he has his head on straight. Of course, you know, after the Usyk fight, he had a, you know, an attitude, but he's competitive, and we are in a very vicious competitive sport. Of course, you know, he wanted to get his hand raised that night, but I just feel like I got respect for that man. So shouts out to Anthony Joshua.
Absolutely. And I want to see him, like I said, I like the fact that he's willing to step outside of his comfort zone, get a new trainer. Maybe him and Robert Garcia didn't work out well. He's willing to keep trying. So you always got to respect that, because some fighters, after a little bit of adversity, they find it hard to get up again. Even sometimes after victory, they find it hard to get up because they might have, felt like that's the point of making it. So you got a guy like Joe Joyce. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him in the heavyweight division. Joe Joyce, a lot of people are calling him like a familiar type of George Foreman type fighter. And saying, and a lot of people are saying that Joe Joyce will be a guy, or could be a guy, that would make a great fight with Anthony Joshua. What do you think about that?
If that's what the people saying, and if Joe Joyce feel that way himself, and Anthony Joshua feel that way, I feel like they should make the fight happen. If the fight makes sense, and this is what people want to see, and Anthony Joshua still here for the same reasons that he's saying he's here for, go ahead and take on a match and show everybody else that I'm still Anthony Joshua. Don't get it twisted. Don't sleep on me.
Absolutely. Now, I want to get your opinion on another aspect of boxing. This one is near and dear to my heart. Um, Women's boxing.
Yeah.
Women's boxing is real hot right now. You had your eye on women's boxing. What do you think about how it's been developing as of late?
Um, I feel as though women's boxing is definitely growing, and this is what the women need. The women need their time to shine. They deserve it. They're going through the things that we go through. If they choose this grueling sport, and they getting through it, they training and they dealing with everything that comes along with it. Of course, they deserve to be compensated, and they deserve the attention that they rightfully need. So, shouts out to the women out there. It's definitely their turn to shine as well.
And one particular rivalry a lot of people had their eye on is Michaela Mayer and Alicia Bumgarner. Again, that was on the undercard of the big one with Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. As far as I think that's, besides Marshall and Shields, I think that's the next biggest women's rivalry happening. If that fight were to go to a rematch, who would you pick between Bumgarner and Mayer? Do you see the same thing or something different?
I don't know, man. I'm staying out of it to tell you the truth.
Sure,
I
sure.
didn't catch the first one.
Well, a lot of people thought it was controversial, especially Mayer, and that's what I'm on social
I heard,
media a
I
lot.
heard, I heard, I heard it was controversial. I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off.
go ahead, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I heard it was controversial. And I was familiar with Michaela Mayer because as me coming up in the amateur, she spent a lot of time with Coach Al out there at the USA Training Center. And then the female Alicia Baumgartner, we have the same promoter and stuff. So I just wish both of those ladies the best of luck. I don't want to see nobody down.
No, and here's one thing I'll say about women's boxing. No, I'm gonna turn into a geek on you for a minute, because women's boxing, that loss does nothing to hurt her. You look at a woman, and I was watching this lady, Femke Hermans, 13-4 out of Germany. 13-4, but who she lost to? Eileen Sederus, who only lost to Franchon Cruz Dezern. She lost to Christina Hammer, another undisputed champion. So she knocked off an undefeated fighter, 7-0 out of Canada. So I think women's boxing, you could lose Jessica McCaskill. She's undisputed at 147. She got one loss, only to who? Katie Taylor. I think women's boxing, one thing about it, they seem to be more forgiving, because the men's game, they try to kill you. They try to dun you if you lose at So I like that women's boxing, that aspect keeps it, sometimes more exciting.
Yeah, most definitely. Females, they don't mind scrapping. It's always been that way.
Now, do you get a chance to watch much boxing, or are you mostly training? Because I wanted to talk about a few fights this year that happened, or some of the fights that stick out to you.
I always keep my head in my sport. You know, I train a lot and I'm very busy, but I always stay a student. I watch a lot of old school boxing, but I try to keep up for the most part of the current events as well too.
Well, let's go back before we go forward. As far as your favorite fighter or who you like to study most, if that's not the same fighter, um, who you got in terms of old school fighters?
Pernell Whitaker, James Toney, Emmanuel Gussis, Ezra Charles, Joe Lewis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, all four kings. Marvin Hagler. I love his story. I feel like his story is similar to mine. Thomas Hearns. I even like Roberto Duran. I look at all the throwback fighters that was the men before me and see what I can learn from them. Michael Spinks. He was the king of the light heavyweight division for a while. Mike Tyson. I know that's the cliche name because everybody say Mike Tyson, but Mike Tyson was very smart and cerebral with his work. He wasn't just a reckless knockout artist like people think. There was actually a method behind the madness. And I also like to listen to what Custy Amato had to say. Georgie Benton, the inventor of the
Philly
shoulder roll,
Shell,
or the Philly.
absolutely.
Exactly. I love watching George Benton. I like watching clever guys, smart guys and guys that'll make you miss.
And when you mention Emmanuel Augustus and James Toney, because behind Floyd, as far as current day, it's James Toney that know how to roll that shoulder, and of course Emmanuel
Yeah,
Augustus. As soon as and even Pernell Whitaker, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
He
Pernell.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That Pernell Whitaker's my favorite fighter of all time, and also Floyd Mayweather is on that list too. Well, I like. Well, I respect all of them. I love Money as well because he's very smart, but I like Pretty Boy Floyd. I feel like I can relate to him because he was the one coming through the mud and going out there and getting it and taking all the names and showing that he deserves his spot in the sport.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So to bring it to present day, besides yourself, um, this year, any fights or that stood out to you that you got a chance to watch?
Stand out as meaning, do you mean the hype around it
Well,
or like
you no, because we gonna throw that out the window because I want to know in the same way you named these very specific fighters, Georgie Benton, Emmanuel Augustus. You need to know. I want to know what fights did you watch because you either were trying to see that fighter develop or because you knew you'd be entertained or something along those lines.
uh, Javante Davis? I would say for one, I like Javante Davis' style. He definitely do his thing. Um, Shakur Stevenson always been a very smart fighter. I like the boxing IQ on him. Terrence Crawford, very smart, crafty, switch orthodox southpaw. I love it. Gary Russell, he hurt himself in his last fight. He fought with one arm and he still showed the warrior that he had in him. He's a dog.
I
He
still had
always
him
been.
over Max Io in that fight personally. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they saying the next Pacquiao, this and that, but they're not looking at the adversity that Gary Russell faced and went through in that fight and how he still prevailed. But a lot of people feel like we living in a perfect world, and they always want to go with the person that never went through anything.
and
I
so
like
you
people that got a script. I know. I like the lion that might have a scar or two on his cheek. Because that signifies strength that he's still here.
and that's important when I hear you talk. A lot of your inspiration is that determination against the grain, against the struggle, coming out of the mud. And so just tell me one particular instance, maybe within the sport, either whether it was a career decision or a training moment where you was in the mud and you almost came close to like, I don't know if this is for me.
Man, so many different times that I forget. I can tell you one time I was headed to the Olympic Training Center for training camp, and we was getting ready for to go over to one of those tournaments overseas. And when I was up in the air, I wasn't feeling right. First, my stomach was hurting, and then I got up instantly to try to go to the bathroom. And when I got up to try to go to the bathroom, I fell out and almost passed out. And I just felt like up here in the sky. I don't know how many miles up in the sky I am. I'm like, this is it. I started praying to God and everything. Like, so it's been a lot of things, you know, certain injuries I dealt with. I've been through so much where I feel as though a lot of people would have said, this is it. Like, I can say that I honestly been through everything. I've been through every emotion in the game, but yet I'm still here.
And definitely with 7 wins, 7 stoppages, and a lot of what I see as far as your style, you use a lot of that cleverness. You be in there dancing. And I definitely
Yeah.
I can appreciate literally dancing, because we know a lot of this, a lot of what happens in the ring for those that are watching and those that are, aspiring to get in it. It's the footwork and the ring generalship. And you do that very well. And if I look at some of the fighters that are considered greats, they can move, they can dance. You look at Usyk and what people think about him. You look at Lomachenko and what people think about him, that footwork. And when I see you in there dancing, I say, yo, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. This guy looks pretty dangerous to me. So salute to that. And you do have a fight coming up. When is it? January 20th?
Yeah, January 20th in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania on the Showbox card.
Okay. Now I want to mention one article. I think I sent it over to you because I think this will be a good opportunity if something happens, because the light heavyweight division is sneakily cool as far as being deep. Some guys overseas, some guys over this way. But you heard Jean Pascal is back in the mix. Jean Pascal been around for a long time. Um, when you see guys like that, that's still in the mix, and he's in there trying to fight for, I think, a vacant IBF. Like, does that make you seem, as far as knowing how long you can last in this game, or does that just look like, okay, these guys are still around? That, like, that's how long you could be looking. Now he has some great careers, and it's not to talk about his career. It's just that you look at a fighter like him. He's been through adversity, torn shoulder, right? He torn a bicep in the ring at one point, and I got a lot of respect for him. You familiar with Jean Pascal?
Yeah, I know Sean Pascal.
Okay. Yeah, man. So I just wanted to, just shout out to him. He's in your division. I know you making your way, and I know you're familiar with fighters that have had adversity. Tell me a little bit about who you think is next as far as out of Philly that we might not know of. I know everybody's big on Boots Ennis, and we know what the welterweight division looks like, but give us somebody out of Philly we need to be on the lookout for.
Uh, I would say like our amateurs is mean.
Mm,
We got some kids coming up, and I don't want to disrespect and not say no names, but I will put some out. It's a kid named Heavy Ramir Wise. He's doing this thing. This other kid I spar with named Malachi. He's doing this thing. The other kid, Salim Bay, he's doing this thing. It's just so many. It's so much young talent, and I want to get a chance to big up all these young guys. Moo Moo, shoot, my son is even doing this thing. You know, he's not open class yet, but he will be open class soon. Myron Joseph. So look out for that name. They call him Mighty. And I want to embrace all these guys because when I was coming up, I felt like none of the OGs embraced me.
mm.
So I always want to be back. I always want to be that guy that, show love to the young ones and show them like, yo, I see what you're doing. Like, keep it up and keep doing your thing.
Was it hard to make that transition from the amateurs to the professional, as far as either the style or the fight, the training aspect of it?
No, I don't think so at all because and one more name I wanted to put out, Dylan Price, but he's already pro. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
For me, not at all, because when I started off as a kid, I had a pro style. See, I'm a thinking fighter. I like to break you down. I like to use IQ. I like to outsmart you. So I always had that kind of slower pace, but I had to pick it up for the amateurs to be the successful amateur that I was and pick up the punch output and, activity and those things that they look for in amateur boxing. So when I transferred over to pro, it wasn't nothing really, different. It was just the thought of, oh, I'm actually pro now. And these gloves are smaller. But when I fought overseas, we fought with no headgear in the amateur. So that wasn't much of a thing. It was just like, all right, how will smaller gloves feel? And once I finally got hit, I realized it's a fight just like any other fight.
Yeah, that's important, man. I just interviewed Brian Mabry. He's out in Fredericksburg, Virginia. He's originally from Philadelphia, and he's got his son, and he's got a bunch of young amateurs, and he made a great point that when you're in the amateurs, you don't got no time to prepare for no opponent. Like, you know what I'm saying? You just got to fight, the either the number 15 guy or the number 5 guy or the number 1 guy, and you got to get in the ring and do it. And so I would think that if you have good success in the amateurs, then the professionals, I don't want to say is easier, but if you got time to prepare, then it can only give you an advantage.
Yeah, a lot of those guys though, they can't. It's something about some people that can't revert over to the pro style. I don't know if they used to fight them 3 3-minute rounds, or some guys that they was the man in the amateurs, but where it matters in the pros, they just can't make that transition. I don't know what it is. I'm just happy to not be one of those fighters.
No, definitely, definitely. What are some things that you have going on outside of the ring that maybe boxing has given you the opportunity to do?
Uh, it's not active right now, but me to work on my clothing line for now. Um, Boxing helped build my confidence as a person as well, because they say boxing is life. So the things you go through with boxing, you can apply them into your everyday life. Um, Kind of a stardom. Everybody knows me, so it's easier to like I might go out one place and then the security guard might know me or something like that. So they'll help me get in. It's just the perks that come with being a champ and stuff like that. But boxing more so help me mentally when it comes to everything and everyday life, because I can compare it to the ring. I can compare it to, oh, I've been through this in boxing, so this is just like that situation I went through with boxing. I'll get past it.
Yeah, and certainly, brother, the first thing I say is, I got so much respect for fighters because, you know, even like when us casuals, I'm gonna consider myself a casual because when someone says, yo, this fighter's a bum or this fighter this or this fighter that, I'm like, yo, you don't even understand this. This dude, not only before he had the gall to get in the ring and stand toe to toe, and he had to be skilled enough to get to a certain point. He had to sell tickets in his area first. He had to be able to draw a crowd. He had to be able to not just defend himself, to entertain while he defended himself. And y'all calling him a bum. You ain't done none of that. Like, you got to be very careful.
So I don't know why you said casual. I don't think you're a casual if you have that type of mindset.
Well, maybe I just consider it a respect to the game because I say sometimes people, as when you observe in the sport, if you've never been in the ring, I've been in the ring sparring. I've never been athletic in that way, and so I never had the time. I never had the desire. At this point in my life, I chose boxing. I think I can relate to you. I chose boxing as a way to challenge myself mentally. So
Right.
I came down, this is 10 years ago, but I came down 100 pounds because the biggest fight I had was against myself. So I
Mm.
left 100 pounds 10 years ago, and the mentality of cutting weight, being disciplined, watching my meals, and the only sport I could find to take me on that journey, because respectfully, I ain't grow up playing sports. I wish I had the temperament to do that and the focus and the support. I didn't have it. But the one thing I could draw from in my life to take me on that journey was boxing. So this is a passion for mine. I live this, in every day, like you said. I can relate to it because when I get up, I got to do a little bit of road work. I got to eat right. Got to keep my mind focused. I got to study a little bit. I got to build my brand. So I be feeling like a fighter. So I'm in this thing, and I love celebrating the guys that do it for real, for real. So that's why I love having you here, and I'm very grateful to have you on this platform, sir.
I'm grateful to be here, man. And you said something that made me respect you even more. You said that you had a fight, and you had a fight with yourself. That's real. A lot of people don't talk about that. The only person that can beat me is me. A lot of times, can't nobody do what I'd already done to myself. I'd have put myself through hell. So a lot of people don't understand that biggest fight and the most important fight is the one with yourself. Once you
Absolutely.
make that and identify that, then I feel like the sky's the limit. So I respect you for saying that, my brother.
Hey man, and listen, the sky's the limit for you as well. I'm very grateful for having you. And please keep in touch. I know how to reach out to you. You know I'm on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen me, but for sure I'll, just send you this episode when it's done. And I'm gonna definitely be watching the rise of Atif Oberlton.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, right quick. Tell me the science behind your nickname, Lord Pretty Calvo. Where does that come from?
Because I feel as though I'm a lord of descent. Well, we all know, like I say in every interview, so I'm showing love. I'm showing my where I got inspired from. It's a New York rapper by the name of ASAP Rocky. His nickname is Lord Pretty Flacco. I feel as though I'm a lord. I'm pretty or handsome, whatever you want to call it. And Calvo means bald in Spanish. And so I feel like it just go, you know, Calvo, like, yo, what's up, Calvo?
Eh,
Calvo is cool, but it also means bald in Spanish, just like Flaco means skinny in Spanish. So I was just looking for something, to call myself that had a flair, that had a natural, coolness about it, like myself. And I felt like that was it.
Well, that's I love the science behind that, and I can definitely see your brand flourishing. I could see your career flourishing, and I thank you for sharing your time with me. Let the people know where they can reach you. They can find you on Instagram and Twitter and your information.
They can find me on Facebook at Atif Oberlton, Atif, last name Oberlton, and on Instagram at Natif We Trust, INATIF We Trust. Like in God, we trust in the dollar bill. You trust in God, you could trust in me.
Definitely, you could trust in me, King Amin of Essex, to bring you these championship rounds, ladies and gentlemen. We out of here.
Salute.